You're a terrific guest. What can
I'm independent. You know it. You love it. You can't live without it. Rockland World Radio.
Welcome to Lighten Up, a show about bringing more love, light, and joy into your life, and archived on the Lighten Up program page. Please join us in the chat room by clicking on the chat room icon located on the left-hand side of our menu bar. Now the host of Lighten Up, Isabel Merians.
Welcome to Lighten Up with Isabel, your good news show. A show about bringing more love, light, and joy into your life, and hopefully into the lives of those that you love and that surround you. Today, obviously, our first show of 2016. We have some really wonderful things to share with you, and we're delighted to have you here today. One of the wonderful things I have to share is my guest, Rachael DeSalvo, who is going to be joining us today. Rachael is a graduate of Colgate, where she had an outstanding academic record, and she is currently working as a paralegal for a large law firm in Manhattan. Rachael, welcome.
Thanks for having me.
It's my great pleasure.
It's an honor to be here. I'm really excited. So I am currently working as a corporate paralegal at a law firm in Manhattan, and they actually do corporate and litigation work, and it's a very big firm. And it's been a rewarding experience thus far, very much so, because I am incredibly interested in law, in government, in those realms of thought, and I've really been able to gain some experience and some exposure to that life and that kind of work, and I've really been enjoying it.
Well, does this mean that you plan to go on to law school, or would you prefer going into government? I mean, you have a lot of options there.
Yeah, well, it's an interesting question. Unfortunately, I can't really answer that yet, but it's just been a really nice experience to be able to see what a lawyer does on a day-to-day basis and determine whether or not I would like to do that as well. So I'll get back to you on that question.
Okay, sounds good. Well, obviously, one of the ways of bringing more love, light, and joy into your life is how you focus. Those issues that we focus on tend to become our reality. And I'd like to say, I hope you keep your focus for this year positive. I'm sure you will, Rachael.
That's what I plan to do.
And in order to be focused on the positive, I have jotted down a few notes for myself that I want to share with the audience. First of all, I hope everyone had wonderful holidays and are ready to start this new year on a very, very positive footing. The first thing I'd like to share is the fact that since the year 2000, hundreds of millions of people have been brought out of dire poverty and hunger.
Wow.
Which is really a remarkable statistic.
It is.
Governments are much more aware. Philanthropists are much more aware. And as a result, what we're having is more people brought out of poverty and out of dire circumstance. So that's good news.
Claps for that.
And the next thing I'd like to mention is the fact that charitable giving is at an all-time high.
Wow.
And that doesn't mean that you have to be able to give don't have to be a philanthropist to give, but whatever amount. And I do find that younger people are becoming more and more aware of this. And you hear stories of very young children. Recently heard about a young girl who had heard about a family suffering when their father, who was a fireman, was killed. And she made a point of raising money within her community for that family.
Wow.
And it was really very meaningful. So younger and younger people are becoming aware that we're all part of the same world, and how can they make a difference. And I think that's really beautiful.
Inspiring.
Inspiring how someone, I think she was something like 14.
Wow.
So, you have to respect that and really appreciate the fact that younger and younger people are becoming aware and proactive. And another thing about feeling better about yourself is being proactive, because every human being can make a difference. In Buddhism, they say that one person can start a revolution. And this is a really profound thought if you really think about it. Okay, the next thing I want to speak about is that world leaders recently approved a climate control deal, which is really, of course, we know that Obama was in Paris and world leaders from around the world finally reached an agreement on climate control.
It's very important.
Very important, and hopefully they'll be able to implement it. That's a big
That's
key.
the hope.
Also, I don't know if many people know this, but Obama recently established the world's largest marine sanctuary. People are seldom mindful of what's going on the coral reefs and with the fish population. And of course, this is really a vital resource. So many of the world's people depend on fisheries for their protein.
Certainly.
And so I thought this was quite remarkable, and this was something that I recently learned. I thought that was really, really important. Also, cities and countries all over the world have determined to use renewable energy more and more to fuel their grids. I think Germany is planning to use 78% renewable energy.
Wow.
Within the near future.
Well, that's incredibly important
Yeah.
because, everybody has to do whatever they can in order to save as much energy as possible, because we're depleting these resources at a much faster rate than we ever have before. So those pieces of good news, they give me hope, definitely.
Absolutely. And you're the one inheriting the world, so all good news is first rate.
I don't know about only me, but
for you and all your generation.
Right.
Okay. I also found out that world food prices for food around the world are the lowest, believe it or not, that they've been in 5 years.
wow.
Now, when you go to the supermarket, you may not realize that, but for people who have very limited incomes, that's a very important thing. So now let's focus on all the good things and all the ways that we personally can bring better and more joy into people's lives.
Sure.
I know that when you were in high school, Rachel, you did some tutoring. Would you like to address that?
Sure. I did tutoring in both high school and college. Yes. In high school, I focused more on math because that was just where the demand was. And in college, I focused more on tutoring in Spanish. And, tutoring is it's a wonderful experience, both for the tutor and for the student. It's difficult because you really have to learn about the other person, about the person that you're tutoring, learning about their styles that they like, that they don't like. Actually, when I was in college, I tutored for a group of kids, young kids, 8 or 9 years old, in the local elementary school. And we tutored them, myself and a group of others, in Spanish, which I think is really important. I speak Spanish. I've been learning Spanish since I was in the 2nd grade.
Wow.
And it's a valuable tool to be able to speak another language. I mean, language is such a deep part, such an integral part of someone's culture.
Absolutely.
And so to be able to speak their language allows you this opportunity to really connect with them on a completely different level. So I'm grateful for my teachers that taught me. And tutoring was just something that I wanted to do and to spread that love for language and for math or whatnot to other people. And it was very rewarding.
That's wonderful. And your Spanish has served you very well, I understand.
It has served me well.
On vacation, because
Yes.
you can always communicate.
Yeah. Well, if we go to, Spanish-speaking countries, which my family and I just did, we went to Argentina and Uruguay. And those people there, I mean, they're the kindest people, and they really do appreciate when you speak Spanish. Even if you're maybe my dad and you don't speak as much Spanish, they still appreciate if you try.
They appreciate the effort.
Yeah, they do.
There's no doubt about that. And you are interested, I know, in politics.
Yes, very much.
And that's usually a subject that I have steered away from, even with people. Even when I had our mayor from Alpine, New Jersey on, he didn't want to discuss politics. No. But it's very important. And I want to just address the fact that everyone can make a difference politically. There's a little book that's published by an organization called Move On. Right. And the name of the book is 50 Ways to Help Your Country. Most people think of politics as, the big political machines. How can I make a difference? But right. You really can. There are ways of being in touch and making connections, whether it's being in touch on the internet, starting a petition, signing a petition, getting involved on a local level.
Right.
There are many, many ways that people can make a difference. And my brother has a very dear friend named Bob Finley. And Bob Finley is in touch with his congressman, I think, at least 3 times a week or perhaps daily. And I say, good for you, Bob.
Yeah.
Because you really have an opportunity to express your opinion.
Certainly. I think also the internet makes it so much easier to be able not only to get involved, but to stay informed.
Absolutely.
And to express yourself and your thoughts. And I think if you're doing that, if you're starting a conversation, that is step one.
Absolutely.
To becoming involved and making a difference in our country and in the world.
Mm-hmm. Now, if you were involved in politics,
sure,
what aspect would you think you'd like to be involved in?
That's an interesting question. I really do like the concept of international relations. Mm-hmm. I'm very interested with other countries and with how their governments work, how their politics unfold. So I would say that would be my number one interest when it comes to politics. And like I said, being able to speak another language, who knows, maybe I'll pick up another language. That's the hope. But that certainly makes it a lot easier to become involved. And I think that the way the world works and the way that different countries communicate is so interesting, and it's so important. And it's so important to keep that open dialogue between countries. So to be involved in that would be something that would really make me very happy.
So do you think that would require a degree in international law?
It's possible, possibly in policy, maybe a master's degree. I'm definitely on the track of considering more schooling, also because I love school. I love being in school.
You're a student.
Yeah,
I really
like being a student. So.
Right. Now, I know, Rachael, that at one point you worked at Lincoln Center.
Yes.
Would you like to speak a little bit about what you did for Lincoln Center?
Sure. Lincoln Center was a really great experience. I was an intern there for 2 summers, and not only was it just so rewarding, but it was also so fun to be on that campus. I mean, Lincoln Center is a part of New York City.
That's really, really wonderful. I know that.
Yeah, it really is so wonderful. So what I did for them, I worked in their development department with a great team of about 6 or 7 people, and we worked in corporate fundraising. Oh. So we would raise money not just for Lincoln Center for the Performing Arts, but for all of Lincoln Center's constituents. New York City Ballet, Metropolitan Opera, all of them. And we would have big fundraisers and just regular gift donations from large corporations. And I believe the last summer I was there, they raised upwards of like $7 million for all these constituents, which really makes a difference.
Of course.
And it's unrestricted funding as well. So they can do whatever they want with it.
Wow.
Which is
so if they need
organizations like that.
So if they're going to do a new stage for the opera,
yep.
There it is.
There it is.
Right
Lights, anything.
So now, when you were doing the fundraising, what kind of responsibilities would you have?
Actually, Lincoln Center, the team that I had, I had a great boss. I worked for a great team, and they gave me a decent amount of responsibility.
Oh, well, that was good.
Yeah, it was really great.
Because when you're an intern, you always don't want to be relegated to a back room.
Oh, yeah, you don't. You don't want to be the one getting coffee and being. I mean, they gave me a great amount of responsibility. I helped organize these fundraisers that we would do. One that I was really heavily involved in was a golf and tennis fundraiser that raised
fun.
Yeah, it raised almost $500,000 actually.
Fabulous.
The last year that I was involved in it. And I would coordinate all the participants, and I would help work with
Time schedule.
right, with the schedule. I would help work with the actual golf course and the country club that was hosting us for the day.
And how about the food?
And the food, everything, event
wow.
planning. There's so many intricate little things that
Aspects,
go
I'm
into
sure.
it.
I'm sure that's
and it
true.
was really fun. And it, always turned out to be a great day. Everybody all the donors had a great time. So that always makes you feel
a
good.
fun thing.
Yeah.
That sounds great. It
Yeah.
sounds really wonderful. Now, I want to also ask you, with the different experiences you had as an intern,
Mhm.
that was your internship,
Yes.
was at Lincoln Center. Did you have any other internships?
I had a couple. I
Did-
worked for a magazine one summer.
Oh, really?
I worked for a TV news program. Actually, a lot of media stuff.
A lot of media.
Yeah, and it was really good to be an intern
Mm-hmm.
and to be in an office and get adjusted to that kind of life, because when you graduate like I did this past May, you really don't know what to expect.
Right.
And it's a very difficult transition, to say the least. And it's fun and it's exciting, but to have some internship experience was very valuable to me in transitioning into this new life as a paralegal.
Well, I think it's fabulous.
Yeah.
So each thing gave you added ammunition
Certainly,
for the
yes.
next thing.
Yeah,
And that's how life works.
that is how life works.
So now, tell me, when you worked for the magazine,
Mhm.
what type of things did you do there?
Well, I worked
You were an
for,
intern
I
then.
was an intern, yeah. I worked in the marketing department. So I worked a lot with different sweepstakes that the magazine was doing. It was actually 17 magazines. So it's all about targeted readership, right?
Of course.
So they target to, let's say, teenagers and the young women. And so we would be involved in different sweepstakes and different ways to market the brand. We would do multiple presentations to different, advertisers and whatnot. And it was really cool. I mean, I don't know if I'd ever get involved in it again, but it was definitely something different that I never thought I'd
Absolutely.
do, and I enjoyed it.
I think that's great. And your other internship was with her.
My other internship was with a TV news program called Inside Edition, which was also very interesting. It was basically the inner workings of the behind the scenes of how a news program is put on every single night. I mean, it was a daily show. It aired, let's say, at 7:30. And it was very cool to see all the different departments working together to create this one half-hour show.
Right.
It was very interesting. Like this half-hour show,
I was just going to say, just like this half-hour show. All of our other guys, all our interns were in the back.
Yeah.
But which was your favorite internship? I guess Lincoln Center.
I think it would have to be Lincoln Center. Just because it was so wonderful to be part of a small department like that. And everyone was very, very supportive. And I also love music and I love the arts. So to work for an organization like that was kind of a dream come true.
It sounds wonderful.
Yeah.
It sounds truly wonderful. Well, you've been a very fortunate young lady.
I have. I've
You're
had some
very
great
fortunate.
experiences.
And the other thing I want to address is your music,
Okay.
because I do know that you're part of an a cappella group, and I'd like you to talk a little bit about your music.
All right. Well, music for me is my happiness. It's where, when
Where your heart is.
Yeah, it's where my heart is. That's so true. Good way to put it. When I'm singing, when I'm performing, it's when I truly am the most content. And I started getting involved in music actually kind of late. I did piano lessons here and there, which I still play. Stopped the lessons, though, unfortunately. I should pick them up again. But I first became involved in music when I was about 15. I started singing. And then I got involved in some musicals later on in high school. And in college, I was a member of an a cappella group called the Colgate Resolutions. You can look us up on online. And it was a really great experience. I mean, I loved not only just being a part of a group on campus, But we also gave back so much to the community, which was what was really important to me. We sang for different events around town, whether it be for an old age home or a Christmas tree lighting, in the center of town.
Right.
We really tried to give back to the community, which I loved. I loved being involved.
That is wonderful.
Because it's such a small, tight-knit community.
And I would assume that the people in the group became almost like family.
They did. They did. I mean, it's very important at college or wherever you are, workforce, new city, to find people that you can really form an intense bond with.
Absolutely.
And especially when you have a shared interest like we did, which was singing, music, it was fate to bond. It was fated.
Now, let me ask this.
Sure.
You took the show on the road?
Yeah, you could say that. We would do tours throughout the East Coast cities, and they were very difficult to plan. I can attest to that from my senior year. But they were always highly successful. We would go to Boston, we would go to New York City, Philadelphia, perform for alumni a lot because alumni love to see what the current students are up to.
Right.
But also we would just attract, we would advertise like a normal singing group. And it was a bit difficult to have 20 kids stuffed into 2 vans for 10 days straight, but it was really fun. It really was.
I'm sure you did a great job. Well, there's a famous quote that if you follow your heart, choose a path with heart. And if you do that, then you're going to be successful. So between the music, the politics, and the law, you've got 3 paths that hopefully you'll be able to combine into one great one.
I'd have to think about that a little bit.
Think about that. I don't know
how I might make that happen.
I don't know how you would make that happen. But going back to helping our viewers, one of the things I always have to say on every program is that one of the most important things, I think, to a happy life is living in gratitude. I recently had a young driver who was taking me on a trip, and it was an overcast day, and he looked at me, and he's a very young, sweet young man. He said to me, "Mrs. Merians, do you like this kind of day?" And I looked at him, and I said, "Jose, I like every day. Waking up is wonderful. Every day can be made wonderful. Yes, I do like this day, even though it may be raining." So I think living one's life in gratitude is a very important thing. And I think many people today who are privileged don't stop to think about that.
Not always. And we have so much to be thankful for.
Absolutely.
Every person, whether it's family, whether it's friends, whether, like you said, it's just waking up.
Waking up
that
and
is something to be
going.
thankful for.
Absolutely. And I've said on the program before that if you're watching this program, you're very fortunate. You have eyes to view it. If you're only listening, you have your hearing. So, you have to stop and think about these things that most people just take for granted. They don't stop and think. Or really looking out the window and seeing the beauty of nature. This to me is such an important thing because recently, I have some friends who live in New York City. Doris and Joel Wyman, who are really just extraordinarily wonderful, wonderful people, smart, loving, considerate, politically astute. They're just fabulous. And once every year, another friend picks them up from the city and takes them out for a nice long drive in the country.
It's lovely.
And they love to see the turning of the leaves. And then afterwards, we always have lunch together. And this particular year, my friend Doris said to me, she said how glorious the colors were, and she expressed her appreciation for nature in such a beautiful way that it made me realize that most people look out the window and don't see anything, And I thought, what a lovely, lovely
That's very
way
true.
to express it,
I adore being in nature. I love a good hike.
Yes.
I love being outside. I also happen to adore the leaves changing in the fall.
a
And
beautiful
I
time.
went to school upstate at Colgate, and man, there are trees for miles up there.
I'm sure.
So when the leaves are changing, it's absolutely gorgeous. And I as well will go for long rides on these windy country roads and take in that sight. It's breathtaking.
I'm sure it must be. And I think that people, it's unfortunate, but so many people have become so removed from such a beautiful thing, being in nature and seeing the beauty. I was so excited to find out that we now have, near me in Alpine, we now have black squirrels. It used to be we only had gray squirrels, and they're beautiful. And obviously they've come down from Canada, and they've come down into this tier. And so now I have now black squirrels to enjoy.
Very cool. Well, I think that kind of brings us full circle with the good news that you spoke about in the beginning of the program, how important it is to really preserve this environment.
Absolutely.
And protect, this sanctuary.
Yes.
Because it's very beautiful.
It's not only very beautiful, but it's what sustains us.
That's
Mother
true, too.
Earth is what sustains us, where we get our food, our fuel, everything that we live on basically comes from Mother Earth.
That's true.
So, but it's really interesting because to see a whole new species show up or a variation on the theme show up, I was so excited. And of
That is
course,
exciting.
it's really interesting also that there's certain geese that go back to the same place every year. And on a piece of property above my home, there used to be a stream, and these geese obviously hatched goslings there. And every year, the stream is no longer there, but every year geese come back to that exact spot. So it's pretty remarkable. It's really pretty remarkable when you think about it. That, the instinct is so powerful, or when you see the migration patterns, of huge herds of animals or birds.
Right.
Or even the migration of the butterflies, that they're so delicate, and yet they fly down to Mexico each year.
Beautiful.
It's just amazing.
I'd like to see that.
Yeah. I saw it once.
Oh, you did?
Quite by accident, not in Mexico. But we were on a trip, and we stopped in Palm Desert. And that day, the sky was just covered with monarch butterflies.
Wow.
It was so magnificent.
That is beautiful.
So it's really a great appreciation. So as I say, there's so many ways to be appreciative and grateful for all the joys and blessings that we have. And also taking nothing for granted. If someone does you a kindness, no matter how small, always saying thank you, always being appreciative of the smallest gesture. I mean, something so simple is that whenever I go to the supermarket, I'm always mindful of thanking the packers for packing because it's a thankless job.
It's true.
Just saying thank you or just saying a happy note to a person.
Saying Happy New Year or whatnot.
Whatever it is.
I think that the most random act of kindness that anyone ever did for me was I was once in the mall and I got home and I realized the worst feeling that you could possibly have, I lost my wallet.
Oh.
And I was so stressed out. Everything's in your wallet, your license, credit cards, whatever. So I was in the middle of having a mini breakdown. And the next day, I got an overnight FedEx package from a stranger. I don't even think there was a signed note. It might have just said, here's your wallet.
Wow.
And inside was my wallet.
How lovely.
And it was around Christmas time. And I was so touched by this kindness. I really was. It made me so happy.
Oh, absolutely.
And I sent back a little ornament back to this person because they had put their return address on it.
Oh, nice.
Sent back, a little tchotchke, a little ornament, wishing them happy holidays and thanking them.
Oh, that's
and it
lovely.
really just lifted my spirits for the whole holiday season.
Absolutely.
It was great.
Absolutely. There's something known as the account of man. Have you ever heard of that, Rachel?
I have not.
And that is that when you do a kindness, you don't expect a return.
Right.
But you, further down the road, at a later date, whenever, the account of man is you do a kindness perhaps for a total stranger.
Right.
And that's known as giving to the account of man.
Huh. I've heard of it as pay it forward.
Well, that's a whole different
thing.
Yeah, it's a different way of expressing
Right.
it. But essentially, that is exactly what you do.
Yeah.
You're giving to the account of man. You're doing a kindness, and that's very important. Well, Rachel, I want to thank you so much for being here today. You've been a wonderful guest.
Well, it's been really fun.
And it's been a fun thing.
I had a good
and
time.
I thank you so much.
Thank you.
And thank you so much, viewers, for listening in to Listen Up with Isabel, your good news show. And I wish you all a wonderful 2016 and only happiness, joy, and good times.
Happy New Year.
Thank you.
Until next time, remember to live a more joyous life. Lighten up.
It's not just radio, it's Rockland World Radio. RocklandWorldRadio.com